Call to order the October 18th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Barbie?
Here.
Commissioner Buckley? Commissioner Castro?
Here.
Commissioner Kroll?
Here.
Commissioner Neer?
Here.
Commissioner Wright? Chair Atherton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Or changes? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
So moved by Barbie,
Second.
second by Castro. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Approval of minutes, September 20th, 2017 minutes. Are there any corrections, additions, deletions? If none, I'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve.
So moved by Neer,
Second.
second by Castro. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And the October 4th, 2017 minutes. Any additions, corrections, deletions? If none, I'll take a motion. So moved by Barbie,
Second.
second by Castro. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. This is the public participation portion of the meeting. Anyone in the audience that would like to speak on anything that is not on the agenda, you're welcome to go to the podium. And I'm assuming not. We have one member of the community, so there are none, so we'll move to new business. We have a public hearing on the city-initiated text amendments to the following articles of Chapter 23, in quotes, Unified Development Ordinance, unquote, of the Municipal Code, Article 3, in quotes, Definition, Article 5, in quotes, Zoning District Regulations, Article 7, in quotes, Supplemental District Regulations, Article 8, in quotes, Developmental Impact Fees, Article 13, in quotes, Signs, Article 16, in quotes, Administration and Enforcement, and Articles 1-20 to correct the names of city departments and city personnel. I open to the floor to the city first.
Thank you, Chair. We had initial discussions on these text amendments with the Commission on September 20th. Based on the discussions, we put together a public hearing notice, and that was published in the newspaper on October 2nd. And I'll summarize the amendments here in the memo. Article 3, the definitions. We wanted to add some uses, accessory structure definitions that we had. The actual structures were listed in the Article 7 of the UDO, but we didn't have definitions, so we needed to do that to better define them, better so we can enforce our regulations a little bit easier in terms of permits and enforcement interpretation. So we did add definitions for several of those, including unenclosed porch, patio, stoop, and deck. Again, they'll assist in making it a little bit clearer in our interpretation. We also added the definition for accessory building. We modified that to add some examples, and then we added definitions for created ones for structure and accessory structures, again, to make it a little bit easier to assist in the interpretation of the regulations on those. Also modified the definition for impound yard to remove it as a reference, remove the reference to being classified as a junkyard. It should stand alone as a use by itself. Final changes in Article 3, the definitions. We added definitions for the Community Development Director and Public Works Director. Each of those at the end, we added or his, her designee throughout. So throughout the ordinance, we didn't have to mention that each time as they're listed throughout the ordinance. So Article 5, the zoning district regulations. This lists all the zoning districts, all the permitted special uses, all the specific regulations and setbacks, etc. We had a couple changes. One, the impound yard, added that. Again, we added modified the definition so that we followed that up with listing that specifically as a special use in the light industrial and heavy industrial district. We moved self-storage facility from a permitted use to a special use in the two districts where it's permitted, light industrial and heavy industrial. Kind of noted before that this type of operation does have some unique characteristics. Outdoor storage, it's 24-hour, there's lighting, security issues. So depending where it's located, we may want to have a little further review of that and possible conditions depending on where those are proposed at. A lot of the changes were related to just removing the numbering system for each of the permitted and special uses. Each of those had a specific number, so we took those away. So it makes it a little bit easier going forward to have amendments to the ordinance when we add a use or delete one. We don't have to renumber everything all the time. Moving to Article 7, that's the supplemental district regulations. The first section dealt with setback exceptions for accessory structures and buildings. So we clarified that, or added building and structures, make sure those were both mentioned when we do mention the regulations. And then for accessory structures, what's allowed in the front yard, what's allowed in the rear and side. 2 sections on that. We wanted to make sure we're clear on the terminology. Again, going back to make sure each of these were defined in Article 3. So in the front yard, they'd be still unenclosed porch, and then remove paved terrace and added stoop that would be allowed in the front yard, not exceeding 10 feet into the front yard. This would be mostly in residential areas. And then the rear yard just reduced now the number of accessory structures. Some of those could be termed the same thing, so we just cut down those numbers. But in the rear yard, we still have patios, stoops, decks, enclosed porches, retaining walls, et cetera, and removed a couple that could be classified as another accessory structure. So again, just cleaning that up, make it a little more easy on the interpretation and administration of the permits for those. In Article 7.2, we added a specific establishing swimming pools in ground and above ground as accessory structure, and then added a setback for those from the edge of the water. And I conferred with our building inspector and chief building official on these, on Article 7 changes. And we came up with a setback of 10 feet from the edge of the water to the side lot line or rear. And then the accessory equipment with the pools would be at least 5 feet back. So before they really filed the accessory structure setbacks, which could be down to 2 feet, I don't think we had many pools that close, but we just wanted to clear that up so it was clear in the definition and the regulation of where the swimming pools could be, or how close to the rear yard setbacks in the side yard. Article 8, development impact fees. There we simply just coordinated all the different charts there to make sure that each one read the same in terms of number of bedrooms. We didn't change any of the fees. They all stayed the same, so that was more of a cleanup item. Moving to Article 13, we removed the violations section as noted before. Chapter 1 in our municipal code, general provisions, has process and fines and fees for violations, so it was just repetitive, so we removed those out of Article 13 signs. Also in Article 13, to reflect current practice, we changed the administration of temporary signs and permitting them from the Public Works Department to Community Development Department. Article 16, that's administration enforcement. We cleared up many of the duties of the department head responsibilities for chief building official, the community development director, public works director, and also the planning and zoning commission and council. Just cleared up on their duties on that, just added a few, or if we needed to remove any. And 16 had a section on enforcement too. Again, we removed that since we already have those provisions in general in Chapter 1 of the municipal code. And then throughout the ordinance, several articles just made sure had the correct names for the Public Works Department, Public Works Director, Community Development Director, et cetera, kind of clean those up and remove any references to Engineering Services Department or Engineering Department. So if there's no questions, there's a sample motion in the staff report approving them as indicated on Exhibit A, which was in your packet.
Okay, thank you. So we do have, this is a public hearing, so I do open this up to anyone that may have any comments or questions. No? Okay. Commissioners, I open it up to you next.
I have a question.
Yep.
I have a general question just for the sake of my understanding. I realize that our job here is make recommendations to City Council, but I just want to understand the process, and this is a topic that has come up in different items in the past. I just want to get the feeling, the general process here. So if I'm a regular citizen here living in a house and I want to make changes to my back porch, for example, what is the natural process for that citizen to do those changes In summary, without going into too many details, I just call the city and ask what?
You would apply for a building permit if you
Okay.
wanted to add a porch or modify it to some extent. And so you could either come in or call and find out the regulations. We do have those applications for each. I think even some checklists for some of those, what to submit. So pretty much would have to submit like a survey, show what work you want to do, and then those would be submitted, be reviewed by staff, the building, to make sure it meets the code requirements, UDO, and then the applicant would be called if there's any changes or more information needed, and then they'd be ready to issue a permit, and when they come get the permit, they pay the fee, and then they do the work, and then there's at least one inspection done, depending on what the project is, and then it would be approved, or if there's additional things that need to be done, and final out, and that would be pretty much the process.
Is this due diligence an easy process? I mean, honestly.
To get a permit?
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah, I think, I
Straightforward.
haven't heard any, for those easy ones, if they get everything in, I think it's pretty
Correct.
smooth, so,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
I just wanted to understand that in part because
Yeah.
I know that it has come up in different discussions and different topics.
So we wanted, some of the changes were related to, so it was easy to administer, instead of looking at two sections of or what's this accessory structure, is it a terrace, is it,
Yeah.
what is it? So we had definitions, so it is easier to define and avoid any delays in trying to interpret the
And
code.
that's the way I interpret these changes.
Yeah,
It
make it
brings
easier.
clarification. I have another more specific question in Article 13, and I'm looking at page 55 of 71. I see this table of temporary signs, class 1, 2, 3, and big box stores. I was trying to understand that, but I got kind of lost. Is there a two-sentence explanation, summary of what that is?
Yes, we do define those in the UDO. I think it depends on if it's a public entity or non-for-profit compared to a commercial site.
Okay.
We classify those, and then depending on which class it is, it relates to, a lot of it relates to if they can be on-site or off-site. I think it looks like the number of
Yeah,
days and the
that-
size is the same, but I think the not-for-profit signs can be off-site.
And that's a little bit of what I understood as well. And do you have to apply for a permit to get temporary signs as well?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a similar, it's not necessarily a individual citizen, but a business or a non-for-profit comes into the city and inquires about temporary signs and so on and so forth, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Class 1's a governmental body. Class 2 is basically any private retail wholesale establishment. Class 3 is not-for-profit, community service provider, et cetera, kind of
Okay.
not-for-profit, so.
all right,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Can I forgot, where was the swimming pool thing?
That was in Article 7.
7, okay. Okay. I was just wondering, Article 7,
704.
704. Oh, God, I don't know if I can find it. Oh, I'm just seeing there was something in the minutes before. I just was wondering about the definition. I think we talked about that before. What a swimming pool is, does that have to do with permanence? Or,
Well, swimming pools, I believe, is defined in the building code. I think it's anything with hold water over 48 inches would be considered a swimming pool. I know it's defined in the code, and there's a lot of
Okay.
restrictions in terms of the enclosure and the gating and the access. This is strictly deals with the setback to the side and rear yard, but
yeah, I
That
was
is
just
covered,
wondering
yeah.
because I've never had a pool, but don't want one either. Thank you.
sure.
Anybody else? Good? No, good, okay. Anything else? Are you good? You're good?
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to, with no further questions or comments, I'm gonna find my page. And close the public hearing. And I'll take a motion if anybody's ready, unless there's further comments or questions.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Based on the submitted petition and the testimony presented, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the City Council approval of the text amendments to the following articles: Chapter 23, the Unified Development Ordinance of the Municipal Code, Article 3, Definitions, Article 5, Zoning District Regulations, Article 7, Supplemental District Regulations, Article 8, Developmental Impact Fees, Article 13, Signs, Article 16, Administration and Enforcement, Articles 1 through 20, to correct the names of city departments and city personnel as indicated in attached Exhibit A.
A motion is made by Kroll,
Second.
second by Barbie. Roll call?
Commissioner Castro,
Yes.
Commissioner Kroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Neer,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright, Commissioner Barbie,
Yes.
Commissioner Buckley, Chair Atherton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Excuse me. So the next item on our agenda is a re-subdivision plat, Unified Wire and Cable on Dietz Avenue. So I turn over to the city.
Thank you. This is approval of a plat, not a public hearing. So just some background, and there was a few exhibits in your packet, including the plat, aerial photo kind of showing the what's being proposed, and also a site plan. But Unified Wire and Cable are located on 338 Wurlitzer Drive. They manufacture a broad range of wire and cable for the electric, automotive, military markets. They have an existing warehouse at 33 Dietz Avenue, and they like to add on to that warehouse to the north, about 15,200 square feet, about doubling size of the current warehouse. They're also proposing to install at the north end of the site plan, which I did provide a copy of for reference, a 10-foot wide breezeway between the warehouse addition and the existing facility on Wurlitzer Drive. The existing building at Wurlitzer Drive and the building on Dietz Avenue are on separate lots. Actually, they're in separate subdivisions. And since they're proposing a breezeway that will cross the lot line, common lot line between the two lots, that would be a setback violation. So what they're proposing is to create a unified lot, re-subdivide it, create one lot, remove the common lot line so there's no encroachment setback problem, and create one lot that'll be about 4.3 acres in size. There's also existing 10-foot wide drainage and utility easement along both sides of that lot line, which will remain. They've added some easement language on there that would allow the breezeway to go over that easement with the consent of the city and ComEd and other utilities. Actually, there's just a ComEd line there now and underneath, and a private storm sewer. So the language has been added to that to accommodate it. I think actually, and John Nelson with Unified Wire is here if there's any questions, but they've already talked to ComEd regarding what they would need to do in terms of adding that breezeway across that easement and that line with ComEd. So language was modified slightly, easement language on the plat. Again, we were approving the plat, not the site plan. The plans just give you some reference to what they're doing. There were some final comments that were addressed between when the packet went out and tonight regarding the easement language, but that's been all corrected. So there is a sample motion there approving the plat with the date and contingent upon staff comments being addressed prior to final council action. Again, John Nelson here with Unified Wire. Answer any questions regarding the operation or what's being proposed.
Okay, thank you. John, do you have any comments that you want to make, or no? Only if we have any questions? Okay. So I'll open to the commissioners if you have any questions. No question. I'm just doing that to give you a hard time. You know that. Deborah, do you have any?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. And I don't have any questions, so I would be happy to take a motion if there's not any further questions or comments.
I'll make a motion.
Go for it.
I move the final plat of the Unified Wire and Cable re-subdivision dated May 2nd, 2017 be approved contingent upon all city staff comments being addressed prior to the final city council action.
So we have a motion in play by Kroll,
Second.
Second by Barbie. Roll call?
Commissioner Wright, Commissioner Barbie,
Yes.
Commissioner Buckley, Commissioner Castro,
Yes.
Commissioner Kroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Neer,
Yes.
Chair Atherton.
Yes.
Motion approves.
Okay. And we move on to reports.
Next meeting, November 8th, we have a continued public hearing for the proposed cell tower at 1300 South 7th Street by Verizon. At this time, that's the only item we do have on the agenda.
Great. Any other reports or comments from the commissioners? If not, yes?
Just a polite inquiry as to how things are looking for 2 weeks from now, as far as still on board for the Verizon representative.
Yeah,
to
as far as I
come?
know, I haven't had much correspondence with them, but as far as I know, they'll be in attendance, both the applicant and the Verizon rep,
Okay.
so.
Good. Good question.
Just curious.
Yep. And I'd be happy to take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So moved by Barbie,
Second.
second by Castro. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Minutes. That was good.